Shalom, I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz, the Rabbi of Temple Israel of Norfolk, Virginia, speaking to you from the pulpit of our synagogue. This is the second part of a two-part message entitled, With Liberty and Justice for All. Now let's ponder the lessons of the completed story of the daughters of Zelophehad. To do full justice to that story, it behooves us to read and ponder the entire story. Most of the enthusiastic bloggers and interpreters of this Bible story stop with its first half, the part narrated in Numbers chapter 27. But the Bible contains a sequel, presenting it in chapter 36, the final narrative of the book of Numbers. After hearing God's revision of the old inheritance laws to allow daughters, in the absence of any sons, to inherit their deceased father's estate, the tribal leaders of Menashe, the tribe of the five daughters, raised an objection. The law as it stood emended did not prevent the daughters' land from being lost to the tribe in the event that those women would marry men from other Israelite tribes. And that is because the sons born to those unions would count as members of that other tribe, and by extension, so would their land. To understand the force of this complaint, we should analyze one generation further into the future. If Milcah, for example, one of the five sisters, were to marry a man from Zevulun, for example, one of the other tribes, and have children by that man, then those children would count as members of their father's tribe, the tribe of Zevulun. The changed law did not change that basic fact of patriarchal society. And therefore their land would be added to the holdings of Zevulun at the expense of Menashe, which was the tribe of Zelophehad and his daughters. Hearing their complaint, Moses responded just as he had to the daughters. He would take it up with God. God obliged Moses by providing a timely answer, and it's found in the book of Numbers, chapter 36, verses 5 through 9. Then, at the Lord's command, Moses gave this order to the Israelites. What the tribe of the descendants of Menashe, son of Joseph, is saying is right. This is what the Lord commands for Zelophehad's daughters. They may marry anyone they please, as long as they marry within their father's tribal clan. No inheritance in Israel is to pass from one tribe to another. For every Israelite shall keep the tribal inheritance of their ancestors. Every daughter who inherits land in any Israelite tribe must marry someone in her father's tribal clan, so that every Israelite will possess the inheritance of their ancestors. No inheritance may pass from one tribe to another, for each Israelite tribe is to keep the land it inherits. I can imagine the contemporary reader registering displeasure at the restrictions on the daughters' freedom to choose among their potential Israelite husbands. It may sound like Henry Ford telling a customer that he may buy any color Model T as long as it is black. But again, we should not retroject our modern notions of romantic love preceding the decision to marry onto the story which comes from Bronze Age ancient Israel. In fact, the five sisters married within a much more restricted pool than the emended law allowed. The biblical author informs us that they chose their first cousins as husbands. That detail is not merely incidental. In fact, it adds a considerable layer of meaning to the narrative. And this is verses 10 through 12. So Zelophehad's daughters did as the Lord commanded Moses. Zelophehad's daughters, Mahlah, Tirzah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Noah. married their cousins on their father's side. They married within the clans of the descendants of Menashe, son of Joseph, and their inheritance remained in their father's tribe and clan. Notice that the 5 women who, without father or husband constraining them, were free agents with respect to choosing spouses, chose the closest kin permitted beyond the forbidden zone of incest laws. They married cousins, not merely within their tribe, but within the smaller circle of their clan. That is permitted in Jewish law, even if frowned upon today. As a thought experiment, consider the inheritance of the children produced by the daughters of Zelophehad under both the older and the newer divine dispensation. Under the law as emended, those children inherit through their mothers the late Zelophehad's portion of his own father, that is Chefer's, estate. Had the law not been emended, and the 5 sisters had each married their first cousins, they would have been marrying the men who would have had title to the late Zelophehad's lands, which would have passed to his brother and then to them. Hence, by the generation of the grandchildren, the land belonged to the same owners, old or new dispensation. This speaks to a state of mind shared by the daughters, that they wished to honor their father's memory, but not to harm others in their gain. I have pondered why the Bible does not list the names of their husbands. The Bible usually lists the names of men and omits identifying women. Here the situation is reversed. Maybe the subtle message is that for this matter, what mattered about those men was their status as cousins to their wives, so that the careful approach to social change exemplified by Machla, Tirzah, Chogla, Milcah, and Noah could remain the narrative focus. The self-restraint of the 5 sisters is already impressive, but there is an added dimension to their acts that speaks to their faith-rich sense of where they stood in God's plan for the socio-economic equality of each member of the house of Israel. Had those women married any other member of the tribe of Menashe, as the emended law permitted, their children would have inherited double portions, one through their mothers and one through their fathers. That would have altered the balance of the allotment commanded in Numbers 26. The census envisioned a common amount of land going to each heir, not a division into rich and poor, larger and smaller landowners. The 5 sisters forestalled that problem when they chose their cousins. The cousins were the heirs of Chefer, father of Zelophehad, through his sons, the brothers of Zelophehad. Ultimately, therefore, the next generation inherited not less and not more than the original balance. They inherited the proper amount of land, which was now coming to them both from their maternal and their paternal inheritance. The law responded first to one problem, and then, having solved that but created another, it responded to the new problem. But the selfless behavior of the daughters held all the factors of God's allotment of territory to the people Israel in a perfect balance. Never since then has there been a more just affirmative action solution, where instead of winners and losers, and the winners justifying their gains by saying that they were overcoming a past injustice, there was equality and justice for all. Here, the 5 sisters created truly a win-win situation. Perfect solutions are generally not to be had in this world. The wise daughters, brave in their moment of protest, but also self-controlled and restrained in their moment of victory, are an ideal made real. They richly merit our emulation, and their story deserves to be an inspiration to all. Shalom.